What's going on, y'all? Harry from Harry the Horse Barbecue here, and in this one, I am not horsing around with this Costco Prime Brisket. We're gonna give this Costco Prime Brisket a detailed trim and season it in a super basic and classic Central Texas style. We'll smoke it off on the offset to show y'all how to build the most incredible bark and smoke flavor on these briskets, and then we will slice on into a juicy, tender, perfectly smoked brisket that nearly anyone can buy. Looking to bring Texas barbecue to your backyard? Well, the horse has got your back. Let's get it.
Harry the Horse Barbecue.
Now, I know sourcing brisket is incredibly difficult, and brisket prices are not helping the case whatsoever. So unless you have a meat provider, have friends in the restaurant industry, or can afford the astronomical prices of Creekstone Prime, then you're probably in the camp of sourcing your briskets from your local big box retailers, something like a Sam's Club or a Costco. So as I was walking through my local Costco, I stumbled upon a Costco Prime Grade brisket. Now, I haven't seen Costco Prime Grade briskets in a number of years, and I figured I would do a pretty traditional Texas barbecue brisket using a brisket that mostly anybody could source. So let me show y'all how I like to cook up a Costco Prime brisket at home. So in order to make this brisket, let's go shopping for one. Let's go. That be a prime grade brisket. So I picked this up for just a little over $100. So not terribly breaking the bank, but really wish this was a bit cheaper. But enough horsing around, let's get this out of the pack. Ow, it's been in the freezer for about 45 minutes. And here's our 18-pound monstrosity with a massive gash in it. That's cool. But I don't mind a big 18-pounder because I'm just trying to build up my stock of brisket trim so I can continue to make sausage on the channel. Also, keeping it in the freezer for about 30 to 45 minutes really firms up the fat and is gonna make this super simple to trim. And with this brisket, we're gonna start with a nice Central Texas style trim. So we're gonna take out the decal first. That's a lot of decal. First of all, can we take a look at this marbling in the flat section? That looks outstanding. The rest of this backside here is okay. Don't need to really clean up a lot of that. We've got a big nose on this brisket, so I think we're gonna actually have to take a lot of that out because it's not the same muscle as the point muscle. So I'm not gonna take off as much as I am going to, but I am gonna take off this entire nose piece right here. Next cut, I'm gonna work down this mohawk. Keep that to the side. This is one of my favorite areas here because it allows me to mimic the fat content that I need. So I can start to shave this down and make it even, and then come back to this mohawk a little bit more. Start to round off this nose end here. We can round off this fat end here, sort of going with the natural shape of the brisket. Flip that back around. There's a bit of a treated edge on this end, plus a big gash, so I'm gonna start to take this down and keep it even with this point section up here. Gives us a better idea of what's going on, and we can start to take this down and make it even as well. So I'm always a little bit concerned about this nose end, or the kind of the end of the point here, because there's oftentimes two muscles, and you guys saw that I took off a big chunk there. It looks pretty good, but we don't have much fat coverage there. A lot of times I see these beautiful slices of brisket on Instagram, and that point end is just perfectly rounded. There's no weird second muscle on there. So that's what I'm going for today. And this brisket's got a pretty decent shape to it. It's a little thin on this end, so let's give it some better shape. We probably don't have to lose too much, so I'm gonna start just by rounding this edge off. It's a lot of fat, and the meat is pretty thick there, so that's a good ending point. Maybe I'll square this up just a little bit. Take that edge, keep following the natural shape of the brisket here, just continually trying to round things, and now I'm gonna start to work down this fat all over this brisket just to make it about 1/4 of an inch, or the best we can all the way around. But essentially, all I'm doing at this rate is making it so the brisket has good shape, there's nothing angular, and that the fat is down to about 1/4 of an inch, and it doesn't look too pretty right now. But after a few more minutes of detailed trimming, which I think is the key to these briskets, this one is looking pretty darn good. But we've got a good shape going on, basically scalped it right there, but you know, that's the name of the game, no worries there. The underside of this brisket looks great. I'm not worried about any of these fat scraggles down here. The point has got that rounded look that I'm looking for our end presentation. Just enough decal left in there for structural integrity, and it's not the behemoth that it once was before. I mean, can you see the trim pile behind me? That's a mountain of meat. So to keep with the theme of this video, which is turning this Costco Prime into Central Texas barbecue, we're gonna give this a flip around. I would use a mustard binder at this point, but I honestly don't have any mustard. So if you felt like your brisket needed a little binder to it, you could just go on with some warm water. I think that's a great alternative to mustard. And this one's pretty tacky as it's starting to thaw out after all that trimming. So I'm just gonna hit this with the epitome of a Central Texas rub. This is just 2 parts 16 mesh black pepper, 2 parts diamond crystal kosher salt, so a 50-50 salt pepper mix there, and then 1 part of granulated garlic. And we're gonna go all over this brisket pretty heavily. Now I think big beefy briskets can take more salt than what people allow them to. There's nothing worse to me than slicing into this beast after a long cook and a long rest and end up with underwhelming or under-seasoned brisket. You could have a beautiful bark from all the pepper, but if it's not salted properly, you're missing out on a ton of flavor. And when it comes to the sides, do whatever you feel like is the most popular thing at the time or the most appropriate. I don't really care. I season my sides. I think it's gonna add bark, flavor, and texture all the way around this brisket. Now this is where the magic happens, complete coverage over the top of the brisket. This is our presentation side, so we want tons of pepper to help build that bark. And that is the base of a Central Texas style brisket. But lastly, I'm just gonna hit the top of this with a light coating of seasoned salt. Just when you think this couldn't get salty enough, a little bit of seasoned salt is actually going to help you bring that pop of flavor on the outside fat of this brisket. This is the one I have handy, the Badia brand. I'd say the easiest one for everyone to pick up is Lowry's. I also utilize Chud's Barbecue Secret Salt. That works great. And I have a video where I make my own seasoned salt, so you can actually make this at home, which I do fairly often. But just a decent coat over the top should do us. Ain't she a beaut? I think she looks great. And if you're able to pick up a Costco Prime in your area, these are the major points you need to hit. Picking up a behemoth of a brisket is not necessarily a bad thing. You just gotta give it a nice detailed trim, and that's gonna help you shape the brisket, size the brisket, and give it the appropriate level of fat. Utilize the classic ingredients of salt, pepper, garlic to give you a base of flavor. And if you feel so inclined, go straight over the top with your favorite seasoned salt. This is looking like a Central Texas brisket if I've ever seen one, and it's ready for the cooker. So let's go fire up the cooker. Snake nests. Start your fire however you like. Let her rip. It's all good. All right, y'all, the cooker is heating up, which is a perfect time to get your brisket onto the smoker because I don't know if y'all can see all this smoke pouring out of the firebox and the chimney, but it's gonna allow your brisket to pick up a little bit of extra smoke flavor in the early part of this cook. And the processes I'm showing here for this Costco Prime can be applicable to nearly every smoker or grill. The trim would be similar, cook times and temps are gonna be similar, so you don't need a 120-gallon offset like I have. But I'm hoping that this process and these details and the insight can help y'all cook the same style of brisket at home. But enough horsing around. Let's get this brisket on. Up and under. Okay, we're going right in the middle back of the cooker. Something about like that. The brisket is oriented with the flat towards the smokestack, and the point of the brisket is oriented towards the fire. The point of that brisket has a lot more fat, so it can take a brunt of that heat up front, but the point is gonna cook faster because of all the fat content. So at a certain point, we're gonna have to rotate this brisket. But before we get there, we're gonna let this brisket rock out in the super smoky environment, give it plenty of time to pick up smoke flavor and build a bark. Now I've got the smokestack about 1/3 of the way closed or so, and our fire is rocking about 200 to 225 degrees for the first hour or two of this cook. We'll ramp up temps in a little bit, but until then, all we gotta do is close it down. Boom, shakalaka. All right, y'all, we are 6 hours in on this brisket cook, and I honestly haven't done much except for maintain fires and temperatures throughout this cook. So to give y'all a little update, we've been running temperatures at about 225 to 250 for the first roughly 3 hours of this cook or so. Then over the last 3 hours, I bumped up temps to about 250 to 270 or so. And now at this stage, we're pushing 6-7 hours in the cook. So we're gonna bump up these temps even more to 275 to 280 to hopefully continue to build bark and push that brisket through the stall. So let's check it out and see how she's doing. She is looking like a beaut. No pulling in the usual spots down here on the flat. You got some fat rendering going on in the point section. Nothing looking too dark, even though that does look a little darker than the rest of the brisket. See some of that decal starting to poke out, which means we're getting shrinkage and water loss in the brisket and a good amount of fat render. And we're getting a little curling on the flat. I know that's tough to see, but not too bad. This bark is looking pretty good, pretty set. It's breaking a little bit bit there, so not my favorite. Kind of sandy. And I've had that issue happen before when I haven't used binders. So you might want to go ahead with that water or mustard binder we were talking about. So at this point in the cook, there's a couple of things to do. And one is to give this brisket a spritz. So we're just going to hit this with straight apple cider vinegar. Don't need anything crazy here, just enough to cool off some of those darker edges. And if you're a beginner barbecuer, one of the common misconceptions is that you need to spritz a brisket often. I spritz maybe 2-3 times during a cook, depending on the heat, the humidity, but I'm only spritzing if I think things look a little dark and can use a little help. I have not spritzed at all during this cook up to this point. One other huge benefit when cooking a brisket is adding the foil tips, the foil band-aids, whatever you want to call them. So I just take a piece of heavy-duty aluminum foil, tuck under, and I'm just making a little shield on the nose or the point end of that brisket. When you slice into your brisket and your brisket point is kind of hard, kind of dry, and kind of crumbly, it's likely because this end has been blasted with heat. So go ahead and add these foil tips at anywhere between the 6 and 8 hour mark, depending on what your brisket's looking like. But at the same rate, we have the flap that is starting to curl and get a little dark as well. So we don't want to dry that out. So same deal, we're gonna lift the flat up, slide our foil tip, curl it around the flat, and just give it a little extra protection. And at this rate, this brisket has all it needs to continue cooking. Now I've had this lid open for a little bit, but I figured some of y'all at home might want to know the internal temps at around 6 or 7 hours into this cook. Hitting right under 160 in the point, and it looks like a little over 160 in the flat. So we're pretty much entering the stall at this point in the cook. So at this point, all we gotta do is close it down. And we're gonna continue to let this brisket rock out at about 275 to 280 degrees Fahrenheit. If we push 300 degrees at times, I won't be too mad at it because we now have protection in place to help that brisket out. Now, if this video has helped you in any way cook up a Costco Prime brisket or any brisket at home, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll meet y'all back during the next phase of this brisket cook. And fast forward about 16 hours, and we have our finished Costco Prime brisket. So let me catch y'all up on what happened over the last 16 hours or so. At about the 7 or 8 hour mark, I rotated the brisket so that the flat was facing the fire. At about the 10 hour mark, I rotated the brisket back so that the point was facing the fire because it was lagging a little bit behind in temps. This brisket was on the smoker for about 14 hours until it hit tenderness at around 200, 201 degrees or so. And I knew I wanted to give this a foil wrap. I think most people have aluminum foil at home, so feel free to go foil boat or the Goldie's wrap method. So after 14 hours, I took this brisket off the cooker. I crisscrossed 2 sheets of aluminum foil, threw down some Wagyu beef tallow, dropped the brisket right onto the foil, wrapped it up, and I let it rest on the counter for about an hour and a half. That gives this brisket time to come down in temps to about 150, 160 degrees or so. And then I popped it into my oven, set to about 150 degrees because I modified my oven. And this brisket's just been chilling there for the last 16 hours or so. But let's take a look into this brisket and see how we did. And time for the grand salami. I'm a little worried about this bark. We had some flaking going on. Yeah, a little stickage here. Look at that bend. Pretty darn tender if I do say so. And I just don't feel like dealing with the rest of these drippings, so they're just gonna go right over the top. Gloss her up for the YouTubes. I'd say all in all, this is looking pretty good. We've got some good bend right in the middle there. The underside still feels a little tight, but I think that's honestly a product of Costco briskets. All right, enough playing with our food. Let's see how we did. She feels good, a little tight. I mean, nothing to complain about there. A little thick on the fat, but you can't win them all, folks. I mean, this point just feels glorious. Look at that. That looks great. Nice and yellow rendering going on here. Still a little thick. Take some of this little party trick. You can stand this up in the tallow if you want, but I don't want this brisket falling over. Little dab of this beef tallow. Keep that from oxidizing. Center cut lean time. Let's see how we did. And don't cut your lean slices too thick, y'all. I mean, you comment below, would you eat that slice of lean? I would say yes. A beautiful smoke ring in there. The fat, not too much. My mouth is watering. I gotta give this a bite. Oh, mama. Wow. What in the world just happened to my taste buds yet again? Who knew that Costco was gonna deliver like this on the prime grade level? But this is ridiculous. Pass that off to the side. This is gonna be some ridiculous fatty brisket. Just by the way this feels, golly, that's gonna be amazing. Obligatory knife tap, and then we go for these burnt ends. Comment down below. Would you eat those burnt ends? Look at that fat render. This is so money. That is just succulent and tender. Yeah, that's it. That's all I can say. I'm not even gonna say words. You can just take that in for yourself. Look at that rounded end of that point muscle. Man, I envy the folks who are able to do that. I think we nailed that. Look at this beautiful fat render. That is beautiful. Love to see it. Are you watching this video and you're not subscribed? I think this fatty slice right here is enough to convince you to hit that subscribe button. Slice up some burnt ends. But you know this isn't horsing around. This brisket is no horse. We've made a ton of incredible briskets on this channel. This is up there for sure. And it's something that almost everybody has access to, and I am here for it. I mean, that point is the exact look of every single point you'll see in Texas. And I can confidently say that I nailed that shit. Just absolutely beautiful to look at. I'm just marveling at this point slice, and you know it's so good that I just can't stop. When you could just gum down a point slice like that, you know it's done right. I know I'm ranting and raving at this point because one, I haven't had brisket in a minute, but two, I am honestly blown away at how good this actually came out. It's honestly just a solid brisket, and I'm just pumped that it came out so well because it gives me the confidence to tell you guys that you should be confident enough to do this. Like, I really believe that anyone at home can follow this process, get this brisket from a local Costco, and you're left with a flawless brisket. Season it however you like, but that Central Texas style just makes this so salty, so savory. It's not lacking any flavor by any means. It's salted nearly all the way through, and you get that extra salty, crispy, crunchy outside that kind of blows your socks off once you bite into it. That initial whoa that I get is from all of that salty goodness on the outside. Any wrap method will work in this case. The Goldie's method is always such a good middle ground because you're building all that crust and bark during the cook process. Add a little tallow, steam it out just a little bit, becomes perfectly tender, perfectly rendered, and you know the results speak for themselves. And lastly, you can't underestimate the importance of the overnight heated rest. Now, shout out to my guy Marcus Frisbee over at Meet and Greet Barbecue. That guy is a brother to me. That dude is the man. So go check out his channel if you haven't. He's got some excellent recipe videos, excellent barbecue nerdville videos, and he just came out with a video of how he uses warmers to rest brisket. It's an underrated step, but it makes all the difference. So shout out Marcus, I appreciate you, dude. And make sure y'all go sub to his channel. But I think we hit all the marks here. Perfectly smoky, plenty of salt, tons of fat in there, not lacking fat by any means. It's not dry. And I don't know what else to tell y'all except for stop horsing around and make this already. I want y'all to hear the smack. Yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in to Harry the Horse Barbecue. I really appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure you subscribe for the vibes, hit that like for some Costco meat, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this brisket. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I'm posting new content, and you can follow me on Instagram at Harry the Horse Barbecue. Tag me so I can see what y'all are cooking because y'all inspire these cooks. And with that being said, there's only one more thing, y'all. This one is going straight to the horse's mouth. We'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace. I'm gonna be buying Costco Prime all the time if it's this good.